always say things like, man, that cake is so good, it's like crack. And I take offense to that as a crack addict, because what am I supposed to compare really good crack to? There's really nothing for me to say. I'm an ex-convict. Went to prison for a little while. I went to prison for 3 years. And I have kind of a unique story. My father and my brother and I robbed jewelry stores throughout New England for 5 years. And thinking back, there were signs and symptoms that this was the road that I was traveling, because instead of taking us to the zoo, Dad used to take us to the shooting range. And for my 11th birthday, he bought me a hunting knife. I wanted Legos. I don't really understand the thought process there. You're in the toy store and they're out of Legos, so you say, oh, what the fuck, I'll go get an 8-inch partially serrated blade for my son. But don't worry about that. I used the blade to rob other kids who had fathers that weren't shitheads. So prison's fucked up. Once you're indicted, once a grand jury indicts you, I was always, there's juries and there's grand juries. I always sort of think the grand jury, what is there, like a marching band there? Grand jury. But once they indict you, a lot of fucked up things go through your head. And one of the things that went through my head was, I realized I had spent my entire life hanging out in places where I was least likely to be ass raped. And they were sending me to the place where I was most likely to be ass raped. And another realization came to me, you might not be able to relate, but every decision you make in life is based on ass rape. Every one of them. Like tonight, somebody might have called you and said, hey, I'm heading over to Mottley's, I'm going to have a couple of beers and listen to some comedy, you want to come? And you might have been like, yeah, sure. And if they said, there's a really slight chance you may be ass raped, you're not coming. It's not going to happen. So, it was in the transport van on the way to prison that my asshole slammed shut. And it was palpable, I could hear it. Well, the first thing that they do with you when you enter prison is they strip search you. And I kind of expected this. The only part that I didn't expect that threw me off a little bit was the end, was the bend and spread. And apparently, people put drugs in their ass and try to get it into prison. I love drugs, but not that much. Of all the times that I had to stash drugs in my life, never once did it occur to me that my ass was a good place to put it. Because you have to be quick when you're stashing drugs. You can't go get lube and start thinking sexy thoughts and all right, I'll find them there. You just can't do that. But I was freaked out my first night in prison, and the thing that comforted me a little bit was the idea that the next day there's an orientation in prison. A lot of people don't know that. And, you've all been to orientations before for college or for a job. They're there to sort of set your mind at ease. You're going to go through this change, and they're going to sort of help you transition into it. So I was kind of excited about the orientation. And the next day I was at the orientation, and there's a prison handbook. Somebody actually sat down and wrote a handbook for prison. And, I sat up front because I wanted to hear everything. I didn't want to miss anything. Last place you want to miss something. And so you open it up, and the first page is a list of rules. And I was like, okay, well, this is good. Now I know how to conduct myself while I'm in prison. And rule number 1 in prison is all counts are standing counts. So every couple of hours, they go around and they count all the inmates. You want to know where everybody is at all times. And you have to be standing when they do it. And I was fine with that. That didn't freak me out too much. It didn't even freak me out when I figured out when they told me why. And the reason why is some guy got stabbed, they put him in his bed, and nobody found him for 4 days. That didn't freak me out. I was okay with that. Rule number 2 in prison is your bed must be made at all times when you're not sleeping. And I was fine with that. That's cool. It's calming me down. I like this. Rule number 3 in prison: no killing. I gotta tell you something about this rule. There's something about this rule. There's 2 things about this rule that freak me out. Number 1 is its placement on the list. So standing up during count and having your bed made are slightly more important than the killing part. And the second thing Second thing that freaked me out about this rule was, holy shit, I'm in a place you have to remind people not to kill each other. Rule number 4 in prison is no raping. And the thing I found interesting about this is it goes on to say, and or consensual sex with another inmate. That's kind of a difficult bridge to gap there. That and or is what threw me off. Like, I don't know when rape becomes consensual, but at some point in your sentence it obviously does. And the thing that really freaked me out, this is the thing that totally freaked me out about prison, is I look over at my cellmate and he's taking notes in the margins. There was something about this rule that he needed some clarification. And you know what's funny? There's no HR. You can't call HR and be like, yeah, I got an issue with my cellmate. There's a code in prison that you have to sort of learn that's not in the list. This is the rule that the inmates live by. And if somebody fucks with you in prison, you either have to fuck them or stab them. And I found myself a little lazy in prison. I was a little lazy. I didn't want to fuck anybody. And I certainly didn't want to stab anybody. Because to stab somebody is what you have to do. I gotta go into my cell and I gotta empty my iced tea container. I gotta melt my iced tea container down into a cylinder. I gotta take that cylinder and I have to sharpen it. Then I have to make a handle for the iced tea container. Then I have to take the shank and I have to put it in my ass so I can smuggle it out to the yard. Once I'm out in the yard, I have to find a place where I can take it out so I can stab you with it. I just don't have the motivation to do it. So I'll leave you with this. Everybody here in the room has heard, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And it's a very, very interesting saying. It's supposed to deter you from committing any crimes because you know you're going to go to prison. And I don't really feel like it's working. So I'm going to give you another way to do it. Okay, what I want you to do to figure out whether or not you can become a criminal and you can do the time, I want you to go home tonight and I want you to take out a toothpick, I want you to take out a pencil, and I want you to take out a hammer. Okay? I want you to take the toothpick and I want you to put it in your ass. If you don't like it, you shouldn't commit any crimes. Speeding among... If you can get the pencil in with little or no trouble, you can commit a couple of misdemeanors. You can write a bad check, maybe do a little bit of shoplifting, but nothing too much. If you can get the non-working end of the hammer into your ass, you're a felon. You can do whatever you want. If you can get the working end of the hammer into your ass, you're Charles fucking Manson. Go on a crime spree. That's all I got. Thank you so much for listening.
Let him hear it, everybody. Brian Sobolewski. All right, next, come to the stage.